it's really delightful to be back here. And so thank you very much for the invitation. Let's see if I can master the clicker. Yes, so I'm here representing the Center for East Asian Studies at the University of Chicago. And we bring together faculty and graduate students from our 3 divisions, as well as people from the professional schools. But the core faculty, I would say, are drawn from traditional disciplines like history, literature, anthropology, and so on. We have 4 main functions. We like to think that we serve not only the university community, but also the wider community of Hyde Park, the neighborhood we're situated in, and Chicago and outlying areas. So one thing we do is organize a very large number of public events. These include film screenings, scholarly talks, symposia, and workshops, performance-type workshops when we have dancers or musicians on campus. We also support faculty research through the provision of faculty research grants, but also money for organizing various kinds of scholarly events and subventions for monographs and so on. We also provide student fellowships. There are a small number that are aimed at undergraduates. The bulk of our funding goes to graduate student support. And finally, we are also involved in outreach events for K through 16 constituencies around the greater Chicago area. Oh, actually, skip the next one. Yes. So let me talk a little bit about funding. We are funded from 2 sources. For one, we get money from the U.S. Department of Education under what's known as the Program for Title VI Grants for Area Studies. And this is part of creating a system of national research centers for what the U.S. government designates as understudied but important languages. And this involves a complicated process. Every 4 years, we submit an application talking about what we've done under the last grant term and our plans for the next one. We just found out about a month ago that we had been awarded another 4 years of funding, which made me very happy because in my first year as director, we were going through this application process, and many people would have been unhappy with me if we had not won the grant. The rest of our money comes from endowments that are designated for Japanese studies, Chinese studies, Korean studies, and East Asian studies writ large. We don't actually get any funding directly from the University of Chicago other than our endowments, which of course are University of Chicago grants. And in fact, we have to pay rent for the offices that we occupy on campus. Our budget last year was $2.4 million, and that included about $500,000 under the Title VI grant. And of that total budget, $1.1 million was devoted to Japan. And if you look at our members, there's a kind of interesting story here because our China faculty numbers 39, Japan Studies faculty 13, and Korea Studies faculty 5, and yet the funding that we have available is overwhelmingly for Japanese studies, and that is because faculty back in the days of the Japanese booming economy were very energetic about seeking out funding from Japanese corporations that were moving into the American Midwest. We actually have a tremendous amount of money that came from Toyota. If anybody's here from Toyota, they're very grateful. You can see under the members our direct constituents. We also have what we call affiliates. These are people who perhaps don't know an Asian language in the business school or medical school, something like that, but are doing research that touches on Asia. And then we have associates who are people that are not on our campus, but are working on other campuses on East Asian studies. So this affiliate status basically allows them to access our East Asian library, which is one of the best libraries in the Midwest. Next slide, please. The governance, we're a faculty-run center, and I, as director, am elected from among the core members. We have 3 committees, and that is Japan Committee, China Committee, and Korea Committee, and they are responsible individually for managing their respective endowments. But then we also collaborate on events, so we like to think, of course, transnationally and transregionally. We also have 4 full-time staff members, the associate director, the assistant director for program, an outreach coordinator, a center coordinator, and then in busy times when we have many events going on, we often hire students as part-time workers. Next slide, please. So one of our primary functions is, as I mentioned before, to fund graduate students. So I've just put up a brief list of the kinds of funding categories we have and the numbers of students we funded. Following up on Bruce's presentation just a moment ago, I'd like to draw your attention to our Inter-University Center for Japanese Studies supplemental grants. We're a member of the consortium and our students routinely go, and so that they can save their funding package for their graduate studies on campus, we will top off whatever tuition funding they get from the center, and we also give them a stipend of $20,000 or so for their living expenses. The professional training grant is for people that want to do some kind of specialized advanced language training or something else. And then there's pre-dissertation grants for people to spend the summer in Japan. And then dissertation write-up grants. And then I wanted to make just very brief mention about our public events. Last year we did more than 100 events. 46 of these were outreach events. As a Title VI center, we are required and obligated to do outreach to the general public, and particularly through K through 12 students. So we do a great deal of planning for events that take place on campus, and teachers and students come to us, or we send people out into the community to different schools. The Title VI several years ago gave us a new mandate to give particular attention to underserved communities, minority communities, and socially economically deprived communities. So we spent a great deal of time in the larger south side of Chicago following this mission. And then we had, one more time, I did that last one. We had about 59 scholarly events, and you can see, speaking to Japanese studies, that about 24 of these were Japan-centered.